It's not necessarily the industry, but it is because, and this is like later, but I didn't realize how much I loved this industry until COVID took it away. Like that was like a big moment, right? But I think what really happened was we had the opportunity to work with local farmers. We had the opportunity we didn't have a lot of money, but we could give time and donate ourselves basically to local nonprofit efforts, pop up and hand out samples and be parts of auctions and different things in a way that we could give back to the community that felt really good for both of us. Like that's a huge part of who we are, that giving, and it's really fulfilling to us. So I started to realize that a restaurant, it can be a way of making a profit, it's a business, but it's also this opportunity to create a platform in which you can really you can challenge people a little bit, you can educate them, you can inspire them, but it's a really fun way to do it. It's not preachy necessarily. And so we started to love and kind of I just really embraced that part of it.
This episode made possible by Restaurant Systems Pro. With excitement, allow me to introduce to you today's guests, co-founders and co-owners of the Plot Group and Wrench and Rodent, Davin and Jessica Waite. Are you two feeling unstoppable today?
Yes.
We are.
Yeah, stoked to have you here. So I actually had Davin on the show. I want to say he was episode 679. So if you want to pick up where we left off or familiarize yourself with the backstory of Davin, I say go check out that episode and then come back. And today we're going to pick up where we left off. I'm hoping to go back into your backstory, Jessica, to learn more about you and what was going on before you guys crossed paths and went into business together. I can't wait to dive in, but let's get that motivational, inspirational ball rolling with a success quote or mantra. I don't know if I gave you a warning that this was coming, but Davin has been in the seat before, so you should have known it was coming. What do you guys got for us?
You want to go first?
Go for it, Jessica. God. They didn't say it was going to be easy. They said it was going to be worth it.
This interview or the
I don't
the
know.
industry?
I mean, it's actually an AA saying, but I could start over with that. I honestly was not prepared for this. Let's see.
No, that was a good one.
Okay.
So they didn't say it was going to be easy. They said it was going to be worth it. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
So what do you mean by that?
Okay, I go to that a lot in my head because especially with the plot is so a huge part of our mission and everything we believe in, right? For the environment, for people, for animals, which is a huge part of my background. And looking at everything that we've gone through to get these restaurants open, it's been really freaking hard. Restaurants are hard. We all know that. But this opening a big vegan restaurant right before COVID hit was really, really hard. But the change that we're seeing, the response that we're seeing, the evolution of our team and the culinary and everything that's coming from it is really, really worth it.
Yeah. Dive in a layer deeper. Why has it been worth it? What is the emotion tied with that?
It's like having a deep belief system about how you can change things for the better in communities, for the planet, however that is, whatever that looks like to you. And then finding a way that you can do it that's fun, that's sexy, that's delicious, that is with people that you love and believe in.
Yeah.
I mean, doing this with my partner is like the coolest thing ever. But then also the team that has kind of built up around us and that everybody really believes in a bigger picture. We're not just building a business to make money. We're building a business to make change. And I think that doing that is really worth it. Yeah. Even if it's hard.
What I'm hearing, before I chime in, Davin, do you want to build off of what Jessica is saying?
Where is he going? Making me nervous.
What type of change are we making? No, yeah, Jessica's got it nailed. My little mantra is the future's unwritten. It's on the wall on the wall somewhere at all of the plots. It's a Joe Strummer documentary from the class who shaped a lot of my belief system and kind of my politics too. Yeah. And that is, we're almost like the same person at this point, but that's exactly where I'm at, Yeah,
what I'm pulling from you, the both of you, is this idea of purpose, right? And vision. Shared purpose, shared vision, and it's the power of a culture, right? But when you show up for something more than a paycheck, for to know that you're making an imprint on society, an imprint on the next generation of professionals, an imprint on your community, changing values, changing perspective, it gives you that little extra gas in the tank to show up every day. And I think that's super important. And having purpose makes showing up easier. It makes it worth it.
Sure.
Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, awesome way to get this thing started. So when I last spoke to Davin back in 2019, I think it was like October of 2019, your episode went live of December 2019. Actually, Christmas Day it went live, I want to say. You guys had Wrench and Rodent. You had Whet Noodle, which was right next door, right? Yeah. And that was it for your portfolio. And you were building out the plot. And you took me through. And when I was here, it was literally a plot. It was like, it was just like cement and like framing of like what was going to be an awesome restaurant. And now we're in it today. So paint the big picture real quick of what your portfolio looks like today, and then we'll go back, starting with you, Jessica, to share your backstory, because we already shared Davin's. So,
okay. Big picture right now, there's Wrench. Whet Noodle was kind of consumed by the Wrench in the middle of COVID. We decided to just use the entire space for Wrench and Rodent, and we can dig into that later. But we have 3 plot locations. We have the big plot in Oceanside, which is our flagship. We have another larger plot, full service, up in Costa Mesa. And we have a Plot Express in Carlsbad Village. And then we're also partnered on Shoots Fish and Beer. There are 2 locations of that now, one in Oceanside and one in Carlsbad.
Got it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 locations, 3 concepts.
And last late summer last year, we partnered on a project called Brine Box that was out at the end of Oceanside Pier.
Yeah.
So it was
Sorry
7. Thank you. Until we were like 7, and now we have to correct to 6. There was a big catastrophic fire at the end of the Oceanside Pier.
This was like a month and a half ago?
A couple of months ago.
Yeah, not that long ago.
And it wasn't started in the brine box, but it consumed all of the brine box. And now we're looking forward to rebuilding, but it will definitely be a while.
It's just on pause.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
And what came first, brine box or the plot? It was Wrench and Rodent absorbed the noodle, the plot. Then was it wine box or was it the other concept?
Then Shoots. Then Brine Box.
And then a Plot Express. They were all kind of formulating or percolating at the same time. So we were working on all of them, and nobody really knew which was going to open first because of all the delays and the things that happen as you're building out restaurants. So we didn't know if they were all going to crash down upon us at once or if they were going to be spaced out. It ended up spacing out pretty well. We opened... I think we opened Brine Box in July of last year. Shoots Fish and Beer, the first one was opened a year or so before that, correct?
So 2022.
It was like a COVID baby. Tail end of COVID baby.
Yeah. So Shoots, then Brine Box, then Plot Express, then Plot Costa Mesa happened at the beginning of this year.
Okay. Was this the first or second plot?
The Plot Express was technically the second plot.
Okay.
The Oceanside one that we're in is the first.
Okay, cool.
So where you're sitting, this was the flagship.
That's what I thought.
And this is where we have all of our gardens. We always really wanted our flagship to be in Oceanside. Yeah.
You've been busy. You've been busy. I love it. And okay, so now that we have the big picture of where you guys are today, a lot has happened in the 4.5 years since I've last been here. Like I said, we went deep into Davin's backstory, so I want to kind of like dive deeper into your backstory, Jessica, if that's cool. So like, where does it make sense to take us? Like, take us back to like when you knew this was like what you were going to be doing for the rest of your life.
I think there's elements of what I knew I wanted to do with my life that came on early, but that was more on the environmental and nutrition. Animal rights was a big part of it. That was like when I was 7 years old.
Okay.
But I don't think restaurants were what I was doing to get through school. I was studying psychology, and then I added biology, went into pre-health.
You guys have that in common. Wasn't that
we
your
do,
focus,
right?
psychology?
You did say. Good memory.
Yeah, good memory. I listened to the episode.
Yeah, okay.
I'm not going to lie.
But I really started focusing in on pre-health. I did pre-health internships. I did neurophysiology research. I did a lot of science, and I really focused on the nutrition and the fact that food has the power to really heal us and really preventatively kind of support us in a healthy journey as opposed to just eating food and then needing to be fixed.
Right. And that statement, food has the power to heal us, I think is so multidimensional, not just like on the one-on-one basis of like what you put into your body can literally heal your body, but I think it has the power to heal society too. And I think that's the thing that I get really excited about. Not to get too far ahead on our conversation, but I know I'm in good company today. So you were working in restaurants to kind of like get you by until like you could do this thing. Yeah. So when did things start to change for you?
Really, when I met him, it was
when was that?
God, when was that? 2011.
Okay.
And I started working at Hill Street Cafe, which was attached to Fish Joint, which you probably recognize that name. That was the Oceanside restaurant that he co-opened after he left Cafe Japengo in La Jolla. And so he's up here. I used to go there and eat sushi and hang out and drink wine, and it was fun. And, I'd noticed him, but I ended up leaving the bar that I was working at. I was done with bars, still trying to get through school, and started working at Fish Joint and working at Hill Street, but then working at Fish Joint. And he was my boss for a very short period of time. And I think it went pretty well.
When did Wrench and Rodent open?
Shortly after that. So probably
14 maybe?
Yeah. No, it's 2013. We're coming up on 11 years.
So you guys,
Yeah.
I think if I remember the story correctly, you started Fish Joint, and it was kind of your way to break out after 10 years of working in the industry, developing all these skills. You left your mentor to come down. Hiro, right?
Sorry?
Was it
Yes.
Hiro?
Hey, there's Hiro in Santa Barbara.
Then
and
you came back
yeah,
here,
then-
opened the Fish Joint, right?
Yeah.
And you had a 3-year run, and I think if I remember, there was you kind of had like this moment, this awakening of like, I need to slow down and downsize.
Yeah.
Was that something that you were both sharing, or? And if I'm making
At
leaps,
at that point, it was kind of, I mean, there was a lot going on in life at that time. Partnership. I think Fish Joint might have been there like eight years.
Okay.
A lot of time passed. I had a young family at the point.
Okay.
Married to somebody else.
Just met your son while I was walking in.
Oh, cool.
Yep.
Cash, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's funny because he works at a sushi bar now.
That's cool.
And they had the catering going too, and brief stint in retail food. And that was really what I was downsizing from, because
Okay.
at the time I went into it thinking I could make a difference, and not going to mention any names, but, big grocery stores that people shop at that kind of sell themselves as these happy hippie organizations. And it's like, oh yeah, this
There's
is
two that
organic.
come to my
and
mind.
this.
I won't make you say it, but it
Yeah,
has to be
and-
one of the two.
Oh, it is. It is,
Yeah.
And you go in there, you're trying to sell them something, and it's like, hey, this checks all the boxes. I know nobody cares about this yet, but believe me, they will. And they're like, oh, yeah, that's great. Can you make it 5 cents a unit cheaper? And then they just tell you it sucks and take the idea, produce it themselves, change
Right.
it just enough to where, So, and for me, like, not to gripe on about that, it was also when I realized that my heart is with the ticket machine. Like, I need that click, 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 that the interaction with the guest, the buzz, the life of a restaurant, and all of that. So
Chaos.
Yeah. Anarchy.
I think
Yeah.
we are, in our nature, humans are chaotic. But to exist in mass numbers, you need culture. And I think culture, in a way, is systems, processes, ritual, these things that help us all agree and coexist in a mass group of numbers, right? So, Jessica, bringing it back to this point, from your lens at the fish joint, right? What were you observing? And what were you feeling through your perspective?
Speaking of chaos, it was rad. It was like this, I grew up in Seattle. He grew up back and forth between here and London. We both have this love of gritty cities. And there was a lot of grit and a lot of just kind of awesome chaos and anarchy at the Fish Joint. And I was really drawn to that. I was drawn to Oceanside. Something about Oceanside reminded me of Capitol Hill in Seattle growing up. Like, I just love the dissonance. I love the potential. And it was just a sick place to be. And I loved his energy. And then I really was drawn to the fact that he was so incredibly creative and talented. Like that pure, just burning talent where he just continues to push boundaries. And I didn't even get to see as much of that at Fish Joint. I feel like at that point, everybody was just a little bit run ragged. You were overworked and you were pushing really hard, but I just saw this amazing spark and we got to be really good friends. And, a whole part of things that we don't talk about as much, but I made a reference to in the beginning, is this is when I was going through kind of my early stages of recovery. And he was a really pretty much the force in that, being there for me, supporting me in that, and being my friend through that. And so that was a huge part of the beginning of our relationship was, kind of like a rawness and honesty that a lot of people might not integrate into their early relationship.
Right.
Like, we got to know each other really fast.
Right. And I'm not oversharing
yeah.
when I say this, but
Yeah.
Davin went through his own recovery multiple times, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yep.
you went through the system at least twice that I think
Yeah.
you mentioned in the last.
Totally.
Yeah. So like you could totally relate. So that almost kind of like what's that word that you have somebody your mentor or not mentor but like sponsor?
Yeah.
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 So like unofficially, is that what was going on here? Would you say?
I mean, he was that person for me. I wasn't working steps. I wasn't working through the program the way that he did.
Okay.
But he had that background,
Yeah.
and he knew the tools and the language to share with me
Yeah.
in a way that was very supportive.
I'm sure that was
Yeah,
supportive.
and plus he was just my friend, and
Right.
we had the same values. We still do. We just became really good friends, and at a point we became more than friends. And he left Fish Joint. I left Fish Joint. We ended
When
up
did you guys leave Fish Joint?
11.
11.
2011. Yeah.
And when did that open?
2004.
Okay, so you had a
So
solid
it was a
run.
very different. People look at Oceanside now. It was a very different Oceanside back then, and
I mean, I only know it from 2019, and I'm sure it had changed a lot.
and it's,
Yeah.
cha- it's changed
Yeah.
a lot since then.
Actually, it kind of has.
It's changed a lot. Yeah. But yeah, so Fish Joint was 2004. 2012 was when it finally closed.
Did you join Fish Joint in 2004?
I was working there. Yes.
So you guys knew each other for almost.
Oh no! I'm sorry.
Yeah,
You correct me.
You came along.
No, I came
closer
along
to the end,
and
maybe a
closer to
year
the
or
end.
two before.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, not the end of the Fish Joint, but the end of us being there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And at this
So-
point, were you, Jessica, still just working in the industry? Was it when? Because you said it was when you met Davin that like you started to pivot.
Yeah, so I was still, by the time we met, I was still very focused. I wasn't exactly sure. After being, I was interning at a local hospital. After seeing a lot of what I saw while I was interning, it started to shift my focus as to what I really wanted. But it was kind of up in the air by that point. Like, I wasn't 100% sure that I didn't want to be a physician, or I did, but I wanted to see a different kind of healthcare. And I was starting to realize that, like, all of my belief system around local food and nutrition were really kind of informing the path that I was taking. And I wasn't exactly sure that I wanted to be part of the status quo of healthcare at that point.
Yeah,
And
can't say I
so
blame
everything that I thought I believed started to get shaken up. And that's right about the time that we opened Wrench and Rodent together. And so that was really about just creating a platform for I want to say his crazy because I love him and I can say that. but I mean, yes. But for all of the passion, all of the excitement, all of the creativity and experimentation that he had bubbling up inside of him that was just kind of sitting there, wasn't really getting nurtured, we wanted to get him into a place where he could do all of that. And then I figured I would go off and do grad school and figure out what I wanted to do with my life. So that's when we started building Wrench and Rodent together. And that was 2013.
And the industry just sucked you in.
Kind of.
It has a way of doing
Yeah,
that.
it does.
I think it's not necessarily the industry, but it is because, and this is like later, but I didn't realize how much I loved this industry until COVID took it away. Like, that was like a big moment, right? But I think what really happened was we had the opportunity to work with local farmers. We had the opportunity we didn't have a lot of money, but we could give time and donate ourselves basically to local nonprofit efforts, pop up and hand out samples and be parts of auctions and different things in a way that we could give back to the community that felt really good for both of us. Like, that's a huge part of who we are, that giving, and it's really fulfilling to us. So I started to realize that a restaurant, it can be a way of making a profit, it's a business, but it's also this opportunity to create a platform in which you can really, like, you can challenge people a little bit, you can educate them, you can inspire them, but it's a really fun way to do it. It's not preachy necessarily. And so we started to love and kind of like, I don't know. I just really embraced that part of it.
It's like a leadership approach of like, come with me. Like,
Yeah.
You pull people with you instead of pushing them to
Yeah.
like make a change. Like, we're talking about the plot and how you didn't want to be preachy during the first conversation I had with Davin.
Yeah.
And how it's just like, like we just want to, inspire instead
Yeah.
of like force.
Well,
right?
exactly. And having grown up vegan, I mean, that word is so extreme to so many people, and we have such strong reactions to it. And we want it to be the opposite of that.
Right.
I love what you said about, like, just come with us.
Yeah.
Like, it's, we have this tagline, feeding the evolution. Like, we want to meet people wherever they are and then just kind of say, like, this is cool. Let's try a slightly better version, you know, or more respectful version.
And then what I love about your perspective, your side of the story, Jessica, is that I think we are, so they say we're in technically the experience economy right now, and we're going out of the experience economy into the transformation economy, which is really just a bunch of experiences over time to influence people to be better versions of themselves, right? But I think that what the cool thing about the restaurant industry is that it's this vehicle for change, because it's so close to what it is that it's literally we're taking life from whether it's an animal or a plant, and we're giving life with it, and it's like it's like this closest thing to just survival that like is closest to like what it is to be human, in that it can literally transform lives, and like from your perspective, somebody who wanted to be a doctor, like you can use the restaurant industry to heal people.
Exactly.
And it's so powerful.
Yeah, and that's what felt so good about it. And it was more of a gradual thing. It was like, and I was still flirting with the idea of like going to some kind of grad school program. And I was like, well, maybe I want to do law school. What am I doing here? Trying to figure out. I started to identify that this is so meaningful. What we were building together was so meaningful. But he had all of this talent and all of this passion and skill. And I'm like, well, what is my role in this? And I wanted to make sure that I was an equal contributor. And I love the front of the house. Like that was a huge part. That was something that I was building out and shaping. But I knew that wouldn't be forever. So I kind of meandered through a couple of different opportunities and then ended up doing an MBA program at Pepperdine, which was great because it's a very value-centric program.
Business masters?
Masters in Business Administration. And it was awesome because I got to take all these classes. A lot of the stuff I'd already learned by trial and error. And but it was really reaffirming and just kind of helped me wrap my head around how we could do business in a way that could potentially scale and drive more impact. And that was really at the time that we started formulating the plot in our heads. So
take us to, it was 2014 that you opened Wrench and Rodent, correct?
13.
13.
Yeah, I know these timelines are all over the place.
And then you left the fish joint in 2011?
Yeah.
So there was a 2-year period where you weren't working for yourself.
What were we doing?
That was the retail food.
Okay.
And when we left the fish joint, I had the catering side of it that came with me.
Okay.
So we found this little niche early on where a lot of the big hotels sell sushi to their guests, but they don't make it themselves. So that was our niche, and we made the sushi for just a lot
retail?
of a lot of
hotels,
the bigger,
stuff like that.
Yeah, you know, when they have a Mother's Day brunch, we'd go build a sushi bar and just, you know, maybe sometimes wear the hotel's logo jackets and just like, oh no, we're with the hotel. It was, and that was a great little program.
Yeah.
So the catering was like more than enough to kind of just keep things going, and then that brief stint in retail food,
At this point, you mentioned it in the previous interview that you were living in a box on the beach with Jessica.
Yes.
So your liabilities were low.
It was perfect.
Not an actual box. And it's crazy to look at what we were paying for that adorable little almost by the beach box back then.
Place.
I know. It's a sick little place. Compared to what prices are now, it's about triple down here. Wow. It's crazy. Yeah. But we were lucky. We had a really beautiful little life. And we still do. But it's like looking back at that and seeing the simplicity and just all the potential. It was really fun.
It's just so easy to get sucked into like the things you're the supposed to do's, right? And then you get all this liability, all this responsibility for little reward, and it's just amazing what happens when you just shed liability and you kind of distill it back to like the most important things. And it sounds like that's what was going on with the two of you.
Completely. And just figuring out who we were and what we wanted to do with our lives. And that has been a journey too. It's, again, me trying to go, well, I have to go do a grad program. I need this kind of validation. And it's like, really, what I needed to do is what I believed in, because I think we're the happiest when we're making positive change in other people's lives in the community in different ways.
Right.
And so finding that, it took a little bit. But
So with Wrench and Rodent, were you co-founders together? Like both had equity in the business?
Yeah.
Right. So, from your perspective, what was that like, Jessica, being a first-time restaurateur?
Chaos.
What were your challenges?
No, it was just not knowing anything about business. I'd been pre-med, I'd been doing research, and I loved that. But all of a sudden, switching over to figuring out sales tax and workers' comp and payroll and all of the administrative stuff, and then trying to market it, and sitting there with my iPhone and doing Instagram, and then trying to manage the front of the house, and up until I think I was still still doing other work for a little while too. And then he was just trying to carry the lion's share of all of the other business parts. So we were doing a lot of juggling. We were working hard. There was a lot of lost hours at night, not sleeping, stressing about the different things that we were probably doing wrong.
So it sounds like the divide was you were more admin, front of house focused, and Davin was more back of house, purchasing, creative focus. What else? Like, fill in the blanks if there are any.
What up, Unstoppable restaurant owners and operators? We have to interrupt today's video to let you know that Restaurant Unstoppable and Restaurant Systems Pro, we're taking our relationship to the next level. Beginning in July of 2024, Fred Langley, CEO of Restaurant Systems Pro, is making himself available once a week in Restaurant Unstoppable Network to answer all of your restaurant systems questions, whether it's be profit margins. He will look at your P&L. Bring your P&L. He will take a look at that. He will dissect it. He will help you find your profit, whether that be through budgeting, inventory management, costing recipe cards, labor, checklists, you name it. He is a master on restaurant systems, and he's making himself available to you. Fred Langley and Restaurant Systems Pro started as a consulting firm, and for over 16 years, they've been helping their clients increase their profit by 10% or more. What are you waiting for? Click the link below to join our Facebook group, Restaurant Unstoppable Network.
Little bit of maintenance. Another big part of Jessica's job now that we're a bigger organization is the design. Whether it's working with another designer to accomplish what she wants the total package to look like. But design is definitely a big one. On the creative side, because it would all just administrative in front of that. Like, there's got to be creativity in there, or else
for sure.
Crazy. So that's a big part of it. For me, maybe more on the maintenance side, but that's just being a restaurant owner.
Right.
Something breaks, you got to fix it.
So this was your second business as an owner, right?
Yeah.
So you kind of went through, you kind of knew what to expect. But Jessica, this was your first time. This is like you're getting blindsided by the first So what were your specific challenges as a first-time restaurateur?
I don't know. I'm hopelessly optimistic. I'm just that idealist.
I think that's a prerequisite.
Yeah. I just remember being really scared a lot of the time because I didn't want to do it wrong. And I knew that we were in a lot of gray areas trying to figure out how to make sure that we were, just everything from proper permits to employment practices. And I am the kind of person who likes black and white. I like to be in a place where we're doing everything right. So it took a while, a little bit of shifting to just make sure that we were checking every box. I think marketing it too, so my mom always reminds me of how I'd call her and it would be 5 o'clock and I'd be like, Mom, nobody's coming in, and then, 5:30, 6 o'clock, people would start to come in and I'd be happy. So there was a lot of the small business owner ups and downs. I think really, I was joking earlier about following him around. I think that what Davin is what he is capable of creating has always just been so fascinating to me. I'm so inspired by his absolute creativity. So following him around with a camera was really, really fun. And in the sense that I could sit there and photograph, and we weren't really doing reels back then, I don't think, but maybe little videos.
I don't know if reels were even a thing.
Yeah, I don't think reels were a thing.
That was that early democratization of, using social media. It was our marketing was just Pavlovian response to food pictures online, and but the coolest thing is it was happening in real time. It wasn't this specially staged, lined up a photographer a month ahead, made these dishes special for it. It was this is going out to table 2,
oh, totally.
And there was 100 others like it.
I feel like the cool thing about marketing, social media marketing back then was that if you were doing interesting, cool things and you had that visual appeal and you were talented, it was enough to speak for itself, right? Because you were just basically providing a window into your world.
Yeah.
Whereas today, I feel like there's a lot more going on. There's a lot more algorithm to play.
Yeah.
Also, I feel like restaurants' whole business models are built around being Instagrammable, so it's a lot louder and noisier. And then there's also just the pay to play, where you have to you can hire somebody who knows who literally has built networks of fake followers, and then you can build this following, and then people are we're all sheep. You
Yeah.
know, like we follow the herd. So like, oh, you have 20,000 followers, like I'm gonna follow too.
Yeah.
And it's just, we're playing against that, and I don't know, it's just not the same landscape it was back then.
And I think one of the things about marketing that I didn't get, it was like, I was like, oh, I don't know how to market. I don't know how to market, even though I went, to business school and took the classes and everything. But what someone had to remind me is marketing is just building community. It's just building your tribe. And what we did early days, Wrench and Rodent, it was like we touched every table. I was on the floor greeting every single guest. We were having conversations with everyone. We were explaining the dishes with glee most of the time, because it would be something like, using fish sperm or something that I was super excited to talk about. But yeah, sorry.
But that gets attention,
Yeah.
you know? I mean,
It's
there's different.
juxtaposition. Like,
Yeah.
what did you like?
Yeah.
People just said, did she just say fish sperm?
And so it was so much fun to sit there and amplify everything that was going on. And then also again with the small farmers and the local fish people. And that was one of the reasons that I think Davin really got us on the map in the beginning, because you would go down and source from Catalina Offshore when Tommy Gomes was there and get fish. And you probably talked about that. But just the fact that you had that opportunity to engage with the local fisher people and start to build community around the restaurant, like people got excited about that
And they helped
wanted to
too.
share it.
And
Exactly.
they shared and
Yeah.
they market. You know, like we've had a lot of help along the way, and that's probably why we're still here. You
Yeah.
know, is all those friends we made.
I love that.
Yeah, and just really building community around the restaurant, so that when disaster did strike, we had a really big support network.
I love that.
Yeah.
So in 2019, the storm was on the horizon,
And we didn't even know it.
We had no
Yeah.
idea, except for that time we got really sick in Portland, and we're like, yeah.
So I when I was here, like the ground was broken for the plot, and it
Yeah.
was just Wrench and Rodent, which had like the pop up of Whet Noodle, and then you guys were working on your first the plot location.
Yeah.
Let's pick up the conversation there. Like where were you guys? Like what was the vision? Like what was going on? What were the challenges in 2019? Just getting started with the plot.
I think getting this plot started, so
Funding.
yeah, that is the big one right there. And we were very naive. The way we opened Wrench and Rodent was like, it was furniture from our apartment. It was whatever we could save from catering, and it was a little pop-up that had a very low overhead and then just grew organically as our volume grew. So we had this, and we had very early on, we had a lot of attention and we had a lot of volume and a lot of success. It was just a perfect fit. And so, I don't want to say we got cocky, but we definitely had a very skewed version of what starting a restaurant looks like. It was a very kind of blessed version. And so building the plot was very ambitious. We had this idea that we would build this. It wasn't just going to be a little scrappy pop-up. It was going to be a big, sexy, this is everything we want to put into a restaurant. And so right off the bat, we were underfunded and didn't even know it. We
Right.
found this great location. We partnered up with an awesome builder, and we looked at what it was going to cost, and we're like, oh shit. And so a lot of it had to do with raising funds. It was my first time fundraising. I didn't know that if people say, hey, I'm going to fund you, it's totally normal for them to turn around and be like, never mind. And you get this period where you start to think, okay, we're good. We're taken care of. We have what we need. And then 3 people who have already signed subscription agreements will just back out
Right.
or ghost. And you
Yeah.
just get to this place where you're like, oh my God, is this really happening? So it was a lot of up and down through 2019, really, to get this place even open through the fundraising phase.
Yeah, I feel like the lesson there is like they're not in until there's either like a name document signed, like agreement signed, or there's money in the checking.
Yeah, it's really the money in the bank that
Yeah.
you have to, because otherwise you just can't count on it. And
Yeah.
that was something that, again, with my naivety and optimism, I was like, of course they're giving us money.
They
They said they
said
would.
they
They believe
would.
what we believe,
Yeah.
And so there was a lot of kind of like waking up and growing up for me during that time. Yeah.
Would you believe this happens a lot with podcast sponsorship too?
I totally
could never
believe
imagine.
It's just like, oh, cool, I sold all the ad space,
Yeah.
and then like a week before, like the ad roll begins, it's like, hey, I never got the assets I needed to
Yeah.
create those ads for you, and like
Yeah.
you crickets. You're like,
Crickets,
okay,
yeah.
cool. Thanks for leaving me a week to find a new sponsor.
And it
Awesome.
is. It's
Yeah.
kind of, it's a wild adventure trying to do this thing that we all believe in.
Yeah, just replace sponsor with investor.
Yeah, exactly. Wow,
So
I'm
you
sorry
guys,
to hear that. That
yeah.
sucks.
So you guys had basically you had this plan, this build out that started, and then you had to find new investors.
Yeah, and we just had to kind of and we were lucky. I mean, our primary investor is a really great friend of ours, who was incredibly patient and supportive. We have had other people from the community come forth and invest and believe in what we're building, and so it ended up working out. We got this place built.
How short were you in terms of what you thought you needed?
I think it came up about $400,000.
Short.
Yeah. So
and how much did you raise, if you don't mind me asking?
I think all day we got to 1.4. I think is what it took to open it up.
So you were able to raise $1 million, and
Yeah.
then you needed another 1.4.
Yeah.
And this isn't a little project. It's a big space. You know,
it was and even we did it pretty lean for this space. I mean, it's 4,400 square feet, but it was also about there was a lot going into building the brand too around it, and so. No, it worked out. It was, it was remarkable, and it was just a lot of ups and downs, like a lot of really like learning what it took to raise money. And I think it was cool though, because I realized that a lot of people won't fund you, but they'll have a conversation with you and spend 3 hours talking you through their journey. And so I got a lot of great mentors out of the deal.
Yeah.
I really got to learn from a lot of brilliant minds, and that was an exciting experience.
That's a big lesson that's come up on the show, is if the answer is no, find out why the answer is no.
Yeah, exactly.
And eliminate that as an excuse for the next person you approach.
Yeah.
So Davin, you've been kind of quiet. But we're kind of been sharing Jessica's perspective up to this point. We've already kind of shared up to this point when I had you on the show, but what's going through your mind, that if there's any blanks that you want to fill in, or
I think a little bit. There was also having how we did Wrench. There was a bit of a pendulum swing to, this is going to be so nice. We can just pay people to do stuff.
Right, where you grinded it out for 10 years with Wrench, or at this point it would have been 5 years?
Yeah. Something like that, yeah.
Just doing the piecemeal build out of Wrench, like, you always end up paying. It's just how it would have been prohibitive if we had to come up with what, You
paid with sweat equity and time with Wrench.
Yeah, and, things not being done right and having to fix old, and all of that. But, it's kind of funny. You put those two things together. And Costa Mesa, aside from delays that we had with health department stuff, Costa Mesa kind of became this, like, the evolution of, like, okay, we tried it this way, we've done it that way. Now this is, with a little bit like this with the soul of that.
Right. And like running restaurants is one game. Scaling a restaurant concept, like that's a whole different set of skills, right? A whole new game you're playing at that point. And neither of you had that experience scaling a brand at that point, because you were working as a chef. You had your first partnership with the fish joint, and then your first solo venture. I shouldn't say so, because you were partnered with Jessica, but you were a couple, right? Yeah. So it was yours collectively, right? Not so much business partner, but more like life partner going into this. So like this is a whole new set of challenges for the both of you on how to scale a concept. Whose vision was the plot?
I think it was both of ours.
Okay.
I mean, we, like you said, we kind of share our brain at this point. We sit there in bed and like talk about what to name a restaurant and what the concept is. And I think I started a business plan while he was giving a keynote presentation at the California Resource and Recovery Association, because I was there listening to all these different speakers about zero waste issues. And so we'd already been talking about something that was our next step. We were already kind of starting to noodle on, okay, what are we doing next? Wrench was getting to the point where it was doing really well. And we're like, okay, where do we go from here? And I think impact was always something. His philosophies of total utilization, of zero waste in the kitchen. I mean, that's not just about plants. That started with his, what do you call it? Like discipline, the way you were raised as a chef by Japanese masters, right? Like the idea that you never waste anything. It's respect.
It's having integrity, like treating whatever you're eating, it died so you can eat. So,
right.
Not saying, you make your own choices about what you do and don't want to eat, but like at least respect it.
Right. You know like how many times I've seen people just like throw away half a burger.
Yeah.
I'm just like, take it home. Like why? Like that was like, literally a living thing that sacrificed its life so you could continue to sustain your life. Like, respect it.
Yeah, and I think part of what's wrong with our food system is we've been so distanced from it that we don't, the average, I mean, we see it, but like your average American doesn't. You know,
It's
I mean,
food-
I don't
yeah.
think it's an American issue. I think it's probably a global issue.
Oh, for sure.
but-
I think it's just. What do you want to say, Jessica?
Oh no, I was agreeing. Yeah, it was-
It's food is literally listed as a commodity.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no, it's gross.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
Like when you think of what is a commodity, it's something in its raw form,
Mm-hmm.
right? Which in that form, in that sense, like a cow in its raw form, a piece of corn and it's like corn on the cob in its raw
Mm-hmm.
form. But at the end of the day, it's also in that same category as like gold and silver and coal and like these like material, like literal material things. Like the difference is one thing was alive, one thing had life, and I do not think those two things should be in the same category.
No, we totally agree, and I think that's truly what drew me so much to David in the first place was just his respect, the creativity, but then also the express, and those things the respect. Those go hand in hand because it takes a creative chef not to just use the parts that are the low-hanging fruit of using an animal or a plant and throwing the rest away. Like really looking at the plant or the animal as a whole and saying, how do I not just use it, but really highlight it and embrace and kind of elevate each cut or each part, each texture, each flavor. Like I think it's been a really fascinating journey watching that creativity. And so when we started talking about the plot, it was like all the things we believed, and we're kind of like, okay, what's our next step? And what does that look like? How do we take everything we've learned with us and funnel that into a restaurant concept? And it was also this little like, what if we're just as idealistic as we can possibly be? Like we always said, like idealistic as fuck. Like what if we just look at this and say like, what's the wildest, craziest thing we could do for the planet and for people? And let's try to do that. And I mean, I don't know. I still don't necessarily know if it was the smartest business model, but it felt the coolest.
What was the way we started today's conversation?
Yeah, exactly.
They didn't say it was going to be
easy. It's
but
definitely going to be worth it.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy to just go, okay, like if we're going to do the coolest shit ever, what would that be? And so I think that's really what the plot was for both of us. Like I can't pinpoint any one moment where one of us said, aha, this is what we're doing. It's more just this rolling conversation in which we express like our values to each other and say like, what does this look like in business? Because we love building shit. Like that's our thing.
Go ahead, Jimmy.
Other people have come in along the way and added to it too. It's not obviously the core of it started with Jessica and then me, but we've got the chefs. We got Chris Logan who kind of helped with the scaling, and it's like this ball that everybody keeps passing around, and maybe we're decorating it, and everyone has their little stuff, and that's kind of what you see now.
And I think what's cool is like we're like Simon Sinek kind of coined this idea of like the infinite game. Like, and we're playing this game of like, it's not about being number one. It's not about being like the best. It's about this higher overarching infinite mission that for you, it sounds like just utilizing and creating awareness about the broken food system and how to get the most out of our food system. Right. But that's a moving target. Right. Because when you started in 2019, what was within reach might've been a little bit closer than, this is what we can reach today. But as we build that momentum, as we build power, as we build size, we can reach a little bit further.
Totally.
And like you're constantly going to be pushing the envelope on what that vision, these values you have mean in this relative point in time as you go into the future.
Oh, absolutely. And I think one of the biggest things too is after COVID, I mean, there was a lot of like, I say ups and downs, but like parts where this just felt like overwhelming and impossible to try to carry on with it. I think a lot of restaurant owners probably felt that way coming through COVID. But one point, I think when we started to realize it's not just us leading, Davin talked about it, but like this idea of co-creation, like everybody here is creating this together in a way that isn't just going to be linear. It's going to amplify outward. And I think that kind of...
It's inspirational.
It is. Yeah. And we all build off of each other. And it's like science, the way that one person publishes something and somebody comes along and takes that and then builds upon that. Like, I feel like that's idea generation and the inspiration that occurs from building something together that you all believe in. It's not about him and I anymore. I mean, we're leading it and we're trying to help nurture the healthy culture and all the things that we do as leaders, but it's also just like everybody's passion and excitement and ideas coming together and creating. And it was actually kind of a relief because you're like, oh, okay, it's not just on me. Yeah. We're all doing this together.
Well, yeah, we're stronger together too.
Exactly.
When you come together, you get to lean on the unique abilities of all the people that you attracted onto yourself.
Exactly.
So when was the second plot opened? Well, actually, I should say, so after plot Oceanside, what was the next project?
Shoots.
Yeah.
You want to talk about Shoots?
So
So when did that happen? If this was 2019 when you guys were building this out?
It all ties together because while we were building this out, we met Chris Slowey, who owns Cultivate, which was the awesome building company that we worked with.
Okay.
And so we got to be pretty good friends with Chris, who then reaches out to Davin.
There was
Teeing
a
us up.
development up the street that had a bottle craft, a awesome bottle shop that had a space. Well, this is, I can't remember the exact year or time. Jess might be able to, but it was the tail end of COVID. You know, we were still a couple shutdowns. You know, patio seating only, masks,
so late
no
2021.
masks. Yeah,
Probably,
must
yeah.
have been. So nobody was really touching restaurants at that time, and I mean, there were two groups that were. It was the people who were super big and didn't care, the people who were super crazy. We probably fall into the second category.
So nobody was touching restaurants in the sense of investing in restaurants.
Yeah, opening them and,
Got it.
you know, 'cause it was
Still too risky.
It was still just what's going on, you know? But we're able to create, and then there's Shane Magnuson, professional surfer who grew up in Maui, had a backyard poke that he used to make. And it was time for somebody to do poke with real fish because it's all that spongy, you know, frozen stuff that is gassed and all that, you know. I mean, there's places out there, but like just that wave of, you know, so taking it back, you know, doing something that, you know, yeah, it's $20 a plate, but like, you know,
That's the cost of food.
Yeah.
Amen.
I mean, and it really is. Kind of wanted, so that had Hawaii covered, wanted Hawaii and Baja. Which let us do tacos. I mean, the shrimp taco over there is literally a shout to our favorite taco shop in Ensenada. And between those two things, so in a lot of ways, it's like In-N-Out Burger, but fish. All the lessons from that we've learned along the way. It's just this super simple. I mean, the menu itself has like 6 items on it.
Yeah.
There's like 3 tacos, 3 pokies.
And you're probably cross-utilizing those ingredients and all those
It's
things.
perfect.
Yeah.
And all the, you know, as much local fish as possible, but all the byproducts from that creates the specials board. I mean, one of them's in the bar, so the fish wings are insane. The little collars with the Korean barbecue wing sauce.
You're really selling this. Is there one close by?
Oh, yeah.
There's 2 close by, like 5 minutes that way and 5 minutes that way.
So the Pod Express and the second shoots are in the same little cottages just down the street.
I love that.
But so the whole idea was that, you know, with taking 2 popular items, you know, popular in this region,
Poke
you know,
and
poke
taco.
and tacos, we would have enough other stuff to play with. So it does have like this little 6-item menu. Sometimes I've seen as many as like 25 things on the specials board, though.
Yeah.
So
And it gives you that creative outlet.
yeah. Talking about the Whet Noodle, the chef.
The Wet Noodle, for listeners, was the
ramen shop.
the spin-off, the ramen shop from Wrench and Rodent in the same building.
So a lot of those old Wet Noodle specials went to shoots.
Okay.
Not the ramen itself, but the kind of izakaya style a la carte. And the chef.
What is
also.
izakaya?
Izakaya is kind of like Japanese.
Northern
like a Japanese gastropub almost,
Okay.
with small bites, kind of bar food.
Got it.
Just fun stuff, like
Cool.
the type of place where you walk into a menu and walk in and look at the menu, order everything because you want to try it all.
Yeah, I'm not afraid to admit my ignorance with some of these terms you're throwing
That's
out.
rad.
But it basically Steven, who is the chef of the Wet Noodle for a good portion of the time, he is the chef at the Carlsbad shoots. And all of these restaurants have their own chef because there's two main reasons. We were never expansionists, you know, like my goal wasn't to own like 5,000 restaurants. It was to have a good restaurant. And for me, like the type of food that we're doing at Wrench, it required me to be there all the time, you know? And we've kind of changed that. And thankfully, my basic genetic clone little brother and my kid are in there running it now. But like
He fooled me. I don't know if I mentioned
Yeah.
this. Like the first time I came to Wrench and Rodent, I was talking to Davin, and I was really talking to Lauren the whole time.
Yeah.
And
Isn't
it
that
wasn't until
funny?
you showed up.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait a second, what's going on?
he loves doing that.
He just plays it off.
He still does that shit.
If you ever go to Wrench and Rodent, Lauren has blue eyes. That's the way you figure
wow,
it out.
that's really good that you noticed that because they have the
I didn't.
same tattoo on the back of their neck,
Oh, really?
and it's gotten me in trouble. Like because I think I'm like touching one brother.
Smack his ass, come up behind him.
Exactly. I'm like, yeah, it's been awkward.
Hey, this is on you guys, just sharing those tattoos.
But
Sorry, continue your train of thought.
No, that when the side conversation is more funnier than to me.
No.
But yeah, so I mean, there was, for me at least, there's two reasons why I went from, because Wrench is great. It's my dream. The beach is 4 blocks away. It's a lifestyle as much as a restaurant, and we get to do both. But there's the fact that after COVID, COVID was kind of like, might have been the straw that broke the camel's back with a lot of restaurant stuff. But there was a lot of stuff that was wrong with the industry before COVID came along. And COVID just
exposed it,
ripped it open.
But yeah, we're already vulnerable. We're already on one leg limping, and that was just like the sweep that took all of our legs out. From
and it's a hard one. I mean, on one side, people want to say greedy restaurants. On the other side, restaurants want to say people don't want to pay what a meal's worth. And it's both in different scenarios. It can both be true. And it's just, what matters is not that. It's just we gotta outsmart the issues in front of us and figure out a way to do better and a way to make it a better industry, a more healthy industry.
And this is the way you felt in 2019 when I was last year.
Oh, I felt this way. Yeah, I felt this way a long time.
So, and you've had success, safe to say?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Right?
We had a good life.
You've scaled 2 concepts, right? Just 2, right? But you've had a total of 4 concepts.
Yeah.
At one time.
Yeah.
In 4 years. Going from 1, well, technically 2, because you had the Whet Noodle and the Wrench, and you were building out the plot. But that's so. I think what's cool is when you do what you said, when you focus on just building a good restaurant, and you put all of your time and energy into building something of quality, it tends to create opportunity for other things. So how do you find that balance between taking the opportunity to grow, but also not neglecting the original school of thought of let's just do one thing really well?
Well, that's where, and this is what has allowed it, but also a reason for doing it. Aside from, with the plot, it's kind of a bit of spreading activism, right? Old Punk Davin says, burn the whole system down. Slightly older Punk Davin says, oh, but wait, we got to build a better system before we burn the old one down.
You got to build a house before you move into it.
Yeah. As much fun as it would be to go burn shit down, it's just when your activism hurts more people than it helps, then you're crossing lines.
Right.
So that's kind of like the plot expansion, but the fuel for it and the reason for it is the people, and the thing that makes it possible is the people. Whether that's Travis, Lydia. At Plot, Rachel, that was at Brine Box. Now she's back at Plot.
Met Rachel.
Lauren,
she's awesome. Shout out to Rachel.
Yeah.
She's so rad. Steven, Beecher, Travis over at Shoots. After COVID, a lot of people there was a lot of more of the fine dining chefs that got kind of burned out on it. And, a lot of people got the fuckets and left. A lot of the people in between.
The fuckets. I like to use it.
Restaurants were an easy job that a lot of people without an education could go do and be good at if they cared, you know?
But
me being one of those people, So, those are the people who went and maybe they're in construction jobs or went somewhere else, or now that minimum wage is higher, they can, they're not there anymore.
Right.
During COVID, I noticed that there were less resumes. COVID and the ensuing labor crisis, that the shortage and all that.
Well, yeah. There was also a lot of other things that were. I don't think it was just the COVID. It was also the gig economy was taking off at that time.
Totally.
And there was people who were passionate about food adjacent entrepreneurs, like people like me, who are creators, right? Who are going out and becoming influencers. And that's a whole thing now that happened over the past 4 or 5 years. So I think I think what you're saying actually absolutely contributed to it, but I think there's more things that are also pulling on that working pool of individual that would be working in restaurants right now, if not for a new world that we live in.
Completely. And I think the part that I love that you were just saying too is just the fact that sometimes you don't necessarily set out to scale, but then when you look around and you see all the talent and you want to make sure there's a platform for those talented humans and you want to keep them, not keep them in a greedy way, but make sure that they have a path, a career path, and make sure that they have a plot. Exactly.
Well, we don't want to create a bunch of dead end jobs.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Because then we're just as bad as what we're trying to fight.
Yeah, thank you for bringing it back to this, Jessica, because that was the thing that I really wanted to highlight is the new model. So burning down the old system, but before burning the old system, you got to build a new system, a new house to move into. So what is the new system? What is the new model that you are? Is it about putting the focus on the people? Is that what I'm pulling from you?
I mean, I think that's huge. It's just building businesses that serve the people as much as they serve the community. Looking at ways, and it's hard. I'm not saying that this is like an easy business model to just like jump in and thrive at, but really making sure that your core people are supported and have what they need to thrive. And I think that's money, but it's also the opportunity to grow. I think that's a huge part of it. I mean, that's one thing I learned in business school. It's like you need to compensate people so that they're happy and feel fulfilled, but you also really want to give them an opportunity to learn and grow and take responsibility and be empowered in their roles, and that's huge.
I think the money is what covers the most basic liabilities, like security. Like, are you giving your people security? Can they have a living wage and cover their most basic needs, like feeding themselves and healthcare, and shelter, right? But beyond that, like that's where people usually draw the line. Is like, here's your paycheck. Now do your fucking job. Yeah. But now it's like, here's your paycheck, and like, how can you grow as a person with us?
Exactly. And how can we all kind of like the co-creation thing, have synergy, all feel like we're fulfilled and doing what we believe in and feel supported in that. And it's been a huge journey, because I feel like we came into this industry wanting to fix the food system. And I mean, that by itself is kind of a big, a big ask. And then all of a sudden we start looking at the industry as a whole, and we realize it's not just the food part of it that's broken. It's how the people are treated. It's what's tolerated, what kind of behavior is tolerated. I mean, I got plenty of that growing up in bars, and see some of the patterns of interactions between employees and managers. There's so many different elements of this industry that just needed to be completely disrupted. And so we've been peeling back those layers and having those conversations and working on it. And we're not always perfect. I mean, one thing that I think about all the time is I tend to grind. I'll work nonstop because this is something I believe in. But if I'm burnout, am I modeling the best behavior for my team? If I'm not practicing any kind of So I feel like there's a lot that we just need to continue to attend to in this industry if we want to make it a better version.
And the hypothetical house might never be built. Right. Built but never finished.
Yeah, because we might burn it down before we realize there's a better way to do it. And I think that's the infinite game. Is like achieve what you can today, and then hope that what you achieve helps open the door for better achievement.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's a never-ending game.
Well, it's crazy that you quote Simon Sinek, because he's my favorite.
He's awesome.
And the leading with your why as a marketing strategy, and it's just as a business building strategy, has been ever since I first watched that TED Talk. It's just been in my head and in my heart. Like, that is who we are and what we do at this company.
Yeah.
And
he has a fantastic way of distilling messages.
Yeah,
Start
absolutely.
with why. Like,
I love the way he
people don't
speaks.
buy what you do; they buy why you do it.
Exactly.
But have you guys caught that Infinite Game book yet? It's really good.
I might own it. I don't know if I've read it.
Yeah, it's on audio.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
I'll have to track it down again and see. I might have started it. I can't remember.
If it wasn't for audiobooks, I would never have finished a book in my entire life.
Good for the drive time. Yeah. Exactly. That's how I did Unreasonable Hospitality, was my drives to and from Costa Mesa. That was good. Yeah.
So along this 4-year journey to where you are today with, I think you said 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 locations from one location over 4 years, we identified the challenge of just getting the capital to get started, right? We have identified the challenge of building the new house, the new model to put the employee first and really create opportunity for people. What were like the biggest challenges for you along the way? Like, if we're listening to you, we're getting inspired by you. How do we recreate what you've done, and what have you figured out the hard way that you can help other people avoid?
I think one of the things that comes up, I mean, there's two things, right? There's just basic like funding and finances in a restaurant, and in a time that seems to be getting harder and harder. There's that part. But then there's also the lessons we learn, like the ideas we'll have in our heads that need to be changed because they're not right. Like, they're incorrect.
Yeah, don't get your head stuck on a single photo. None of our projects, what they are now, matches the original photo we had in our heads, but they're better.
Yeah.
So like, I think I see it with a lot of small business owners, and a lot, it's like, because it's your baby.
Right.
And you want it to be a certain way. So staying flexible, especially in these times, like basically, somebody said, somebody referred to these times in a more negative sense. I'm like, well, it's not ideal, but like really it's just a period of rapid adaptation. And if you adapt fast enough, you stay alive.
Yeah, it's like, is it 10,000 hours like Seth Godin talks? Or is it, no, was that Seth Godin or, that wasn't Seth Godin. That was not Simon Sinek either. Who's the other badass author? Outliers.
Malcolm Gladwell.
Thank you.
Yes, we read the same things.
Yeah, Malcolm Gladwell.
Yeah.
Is it 10,000 hours or is it 10,000 iterations? As somebody else said. It's more like it's
I
10,000.
can't remember, but I know, I mean, that feels right.
10,000
Yeah.
iterations is this
Yeah.
idea of like you think, to your point, is it's not going to be the one picture you started with. You're going to start and go, and it's going to constantly be evolving. And what you think might be the ticket is actually just the beginning of the first step to get to where you're actually going to end up.
Completely. And I think that has been standing out to me so much lately with the plot, because when we started the plot, I was just working my way through business school, getting these ideas in my head about conscious capitalism and scaling, and everything we were studying was really big business. You know, they don't have you sit down in business school and study these little teeny businesses necessarily very often. So where we were and what I was looking at, there was radical differences. And so when we formulated the plot in my head, in our heads, we talked a lot about building it to scale and building it for efficiency. And what we didn't talk about necessarily was building it with love and building it with grit and all of the things that had really made Wrench and Rodent what it was. Like, Wrench was a success almost right away because it was so much of us and what we loved, and every little bit of creativity and, a lot of grit. And so we didn't work that into the plot. And I also had this idea that Davin wouldn't really have to be at the plot every day. He could just come around and he can check recipes and he can, what did I say? Sprinkle a little pixie dust and we'd be great.
You can imagine that extracting me from Wrench was painful.
It was a slow process.
Yeah, I didn't want to.
Your brother Lauren there, who you've taught, was he working alongside you on your come up, or did you teach him?
He was with us at the fish joint.
Okay, cool.
So before that, he worked at a surfboard shop, went up to Santa Cruz, made it about halfway through college, like I did.
Yeah.
And then when we opened the fish joint, he actually learned the right way. Started as a dishwasher, then the kitchen. Then before he was allowed on the sushi bar, we sent him over to a friend's sushi bar so he wouldn't only know one way. And then, So he has been at it. He had his own business, the Sushi Bus. When craft beer was blowing up, they got smart and did a little mobile food truck with sushi. Cool. And it was a bubble that kind of popped, and but the timing was perfect.
Yeah, but by opening the ceiling on the plot and having this new vertical for you to chase together, it freed up space.
Yeah.
For other people to grow.
Exactly.
Totally.
Yeah.
And people we care a lot about.
Right. Yeah.
What up, Unstoppable restaurant owners and operators? We have to interrupt today's video to let you know that Restaurant Unstoppable and Restaurant Systems Pro, we're taking our relationship to the next level. Beginning in July of 2024, Fred Langley, CEO of Restaurant Systems Pro, is making himself available once a week in Restaurant Unstoppable Network to answer all of your restaurant systems questions, whether it's the profit margins. He will look at your P&L. Bring your P&L. He will take a look at that. He will dissect it. He will help you find your profit, whether that be through budgeting, inventory management, costing recipe cards, labor, checklists, you name it. He is a master of restaurant systems, and he's making himself available to you. Fred Langley and Restaurant Systems Pro started as a consulting firm, and for over 16 years, they've been helping their clients increase their profit by 10% or more. What are you waiting for? Click the link below to join our Facebook group, Restaurant Unstoppable Network.
And I think that's what it's about. It's about starting something, getting it to the point where it's going, and then building layers between you and the thing, and then people just fill in the spots behind you. And then hopefully, that continues. I think as you grow, you're creating a void for others to come up behind you.
Oh, completely.
The beautiful side effect of that, and knock on wood, we plan on being around here a long time, is you're also you're giving this thing that you care a lot about the life to live on beyond your own life, because all of a sudden it's this thing, and that's what we really wanted to do with the plot. We might not be there to see the end result because we got big problems. There's a lot of fixing to do out there, but we do want to be the one that kicks a snowball off the top of the mountain.
Yeah. That builds the momentum, that gets it to the edge where the gravity pulls it the rest of the way.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just thinking about all the people that have come together to believe in this too, and that's one thing that I love the most. Is just we've talked about it, but the chefs, but then also like I have the opportunity to work with my sister every day now because she believes what we believe,
Nice.
and she's become a part of it. And then Samantha, who just joined the team as our regional GM, like she helped us open this restaurant and then came back to help us lead it. And so there's just so many beautiful relationships contributing to it, and that's just. It's freaking
that's
rad.
just inside the walls, and you've got vendors and
that's the power of a powerful why.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Like that's what happens when you have a solid why. Is you attract onto yourself these people. You can go so much further with a powerful why because you attract those people to make it happen.
Yeah.
So where are you today? Like, what's your challenge today?
What is which day? Any day.
Today is
I mean
Thursday.
Walk-ins and air conditioning.
27th.
We're in some serious heat right now.
I gotta check my phone and see who called in sick and what broke. No, the serious challenge is it's no secret that the vegan market is shrinking.
There's more and more people, which is a good thing because that means you're inspiring others, right?
Yeah.
I think it's really interesting though.
Wait, when you say the vegan market is shrinking,
temporarily it is.
You mean fewer vegans?
So there's different things that are happening. I don't think there's that many fewer vegans. I think there's more people who are getting comfortable in a realm of flexitarianism. I've been deep diving a ton of research. What happened to the consumer packaged goods CPG market was that there was a bit of a bubble. There was a huge amount of funding, and then a lot of products didn't make it. So you saw a retraction in the consumer products.
Consumer product is like the Impossible Burgers.
Yeah, you're just watching all of that, and then there's kind of this narrative around vegan food that it's kind of not getting the same amount of attention and hype that it was.
Yeah.
And then there's been a significant amount of vegan restaurant closings.
Okay.
But there's been a significant amount of restaurant closings. So I don't even know if there's more vegan restaurants closing than other restaurants. It's just, there has been a bit of a kind of a, what's the right word?
I'd say retraction.
A retraction.
It was a trend.
Yeah.
And this is why, you guys are
pop. You know,
right?
Yeah.
I misunderstood you. I want to point out. I thought you were saying that there were more vegan concepts coming to the market, meaning
I think there is.
Well, I think there is
still
too.
because that's why it's so hard to rate anything with restaurants because like thousands close a year, but thousands come right in behind them.
Exactly.
Yeah,
it's one of those types of like. Dreamers come to this realm, you know?
There's a reason why you're still here, and it's because your mission isn't to chase a vegan trend. It's to make a difference in the world, right? Like you're the real deal. And I think that, to your point, I think what has happened is I think that there was like all this information that came out that like veganism is the only way. All these documentaries showcasing like the factory farming that's horrible, like the byproduct of all the methane that's in the environment, and like all like this horrible effect that kind of farming does. But the flip side, cows could be the solution to turning things around with regenerative farming. You know, so it's like, what is the right answer? I think the answer is balance.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly, and that's always going to be the answer. And that's why we're not preaching, and we're not really preaching veganism. We're preaching more plants on more plates. If we're preaching anything, what we're trying to do is just create something that's so much fun and so delicious and creative, and it's just an extension of everything he's done and our team's done with seafood, but just moving in a plant-forward way.
Well, bringing the plants to the other side of the scale to create that balance. You know, I mean, I'm not vegan. You know, I don't. But and I don't think
you're a sushi chef.
Well, I'm a serial killer under the sea. Yeah. You know, like there's probably pictures of me at the post office down there.
A little vegan heart.
Yeah.
Well, you know, it's interesting because like there is like this narrative around like what is the future of our food system, and not like you being a sushi chef, where like there is a serious issue with our oceans right now, where we're about to tap that resource. What we're doing with pollution, and like it's just like, oh, we'll just ship all of our trash off to the ocean, like that won't have any repercussions, you know. Like what is the future? Like if you guys naturally went to like this question that I ask a lot is like, our industry is broken, like what is the solution? How do we move more holistically and consciously collectively together to be a part of the solution? So like what does that look like for you guys?
I feel like you already said it. It's balance. There's the localization. There's the intentionality about how we source. You were talking about cows and how, you know, they can be the solution too. I mean, watching Kiss the Ground really helps understand that. I think just finding balance in our diets. Americans eat so much meat. It's not even good for them. Like, it's not.
Right.
It doesn't even make any sense. It's built on a system that subsidizes meat and dairy and lobbies for meat and dairy, and we could move beyond that and just use common sense and find a little bit more balance in our diets and eat more plants. So, and then eat seafood in a way that is like, I love what Wrench does. I get some shit because I'm vegan, and yet I support the heck out of what we're doing at Wrench because it's intentional sourcing. It's, we have relationships with the local fisher people who bring the fish in. We use the whole fish. We dry age what we can't use right away. Like, there's this whole process of respect that I feel like if there was more respect in our communities and more intentionality about how we source. But I don't think we can put it all on the consumer either. I think business has to be a huge part of it, and policy has to be a huge part of it.
Well, we got to make it easy for people. Another thing is diversification. Wrench, it's not. How many sushi bars do you see that it's like tuna, salmon, yellowtail?
Right.
And that's it. So kind of trying to not forcibly, but show people that there's other fish in the sea, and kind of mix it up so that of course, if all we eat is tuna, there's not going to be any tuna left.
Right.
But maybe have a little bite of that tuna because you like it and it's good, but don't eat tuna till you get full off of it. Those species are kind of strained.
Right. We're such creatures of habit, and then we might have these. You said the answer isn't all more of the pressure on the policy. What else? I
think business too. I feel like holding businesses accountable is important for sourcing practices, but also supporting that. I think it has to be some top-down work.
So if it's policy, business, and you said not all in the consumer.
I don't think it's fair. Looking at a food justice side of things, like for the person who's working 2 jobs, single parent, trying to support, maybe living in a food desert or a food swamp, like just jumping into food insecurity really quickly. Like, how can we say that person is wrong for eating what they have access to? Right.
And to back to what Davin was saying is I think it's a matter of ignorance, and I don't think ignorant is a bad word. I think ignorance carries a lot of negative residue with it, but all that word means is you don't know.
Exactly.
But we live in a world where there's so much information, where we're learning more and more with every day, and we're collectively ignorant. And but part of the solution, to your point, is we need to put some of the pressure on the business to influence the consumer by educating them on there's more options than tuna and salmon. That's delicious, and here.
Yeah.
Try this, and that's why I love the restaurant industry so much, because I think it has such transformative power. But I think we have to influence, we have to inspire the consumer, educate the consumer before policy ever becomes changed, because it's with your money and with your votes that changes policy.
Completely.
So it's like this cycle.
Yeah.
And that's way back to why we started Wrench and why we fell in love with Wrench. That transformative power of being in a community and having the opportunity to get people excited. I remember the first Cyclops Farm dinner. Cyclops Farms opened right around the time that Wrench and Rodent did. It was a friend of Davin's for a long time that they used to cook together, right?
Yeah, at the fish joint.
At the fish joint, old fish joint relationships. And he opened an organic farm up right in the heart of Oceanside.
Right up there.
And this was early Wrench days, so probably 2014, and probably 2014. And the idea that people were coming together on an organic farm and eating a chef-driven dinner, to us it felt magical. It felt like Berkeley. It was just that sparkle of oh my God, this is building community around food, and this is showing people where their food comes from. And to me, that's something that business can do. That's something that restaurants, that transformative power. A huge part of what we love about the plot is the fact that at our flagship location here where we're sitting, we have big gardens outside, and we have gardens alongside of where people dine. We have gardens in the back where they park, and so any person who pulls up here can see that food can grow in urban communities, a significant amount of food, more food that would feed a family, and it's not that hard.
It kind of blows my mind that there's this thought that we can't support the public today with a decentralized food system, that we need to have a centralized food system in order to feed all these people. And I'm that's fucking bullshit. Think about how much farms, this local community farms people have, and that how much of that food gets wasted. whenever my family has a garden, we don't eat all the zucchini. We never eat all the tomatoes. There's always waste.
Well,
And this is a small 10 by 10 garden.
You can grow so much food out of a 10 by 10
I
garden.
know.
Our balcony at home.
I think
Like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Then you factor in vertical farming, and
Yeah.
if you encourage more people to have more isolated gardens,
Yeah.
like, and you crowdsource
Exactly.
those, like, there's way more than
There's-
we need.
It's huge, and like the idea that gives people back the power over their health,
Purpose.
and purpose, and also resilience. Like if LA had been shut down, what was it? COVID. It would have taken 3 days for LA to run out of food. I remember when the supply chains were shut down. There was some statistic like that. Like, that's terrifying to think of empty grocery store shelves. But the idea that you could have a garden box in your back that would feed you throughout
Right.
that period, and that actually like kind of translated over to a lot of resilience during COVID for us, is having the relationships with the fisher people and with the farmers. You know, we didn't have to worry about where our food was going to come for the restaurant either.
A lot of the frozen fish for some of the sushi bars was in the sea container ship traffic jam out there.
Oh, man.
You know, but all of the local fisher people, just having a lot of restaurants closed down, they were stoked to sell fish.
Right.
So having a good portion of fish that was from out here anyway, we were able to have fresh fish when, you know, a lot
Right.
of, and it was amazing. And it was cool because farmers and everyone's like, support the farms, support the fishermen. Like, you know, COVID sucks, whatever. You know, it was them supporting us during that time.
Right.
It was. I mean, we were doing our best to help, but we were so like, you know, but like, you know, people showing up with a fish, people showing up with veggies, people, you know, like,
Yeah,
we
like
just
the
need to keep
food
you
was
guys
still
running.
growing during the pandemic. That didn't come to a halt, you
No.
know? It was,
And yeah, it's weird because I realize that we refer to COVID so much still. Like, I'm throughout this, and what is a couple years later, but I think
Right.
so many lessons were learned. You really looked at all of our businesses to figure out exactly how. I mean, it was like, okay, we're probably not going to survive, but if we do, what does this new frontier look like? And so he went in with this, you know, went back to Wrench and just really looked at how to make Wrench make sense as a business. So it wasn't just about him anymore. It was about a model that would serve our team and our team could work with, you know,
Which is easy. But the hard part is doing that and keeping the love in it.
yeah, exactly.
That was the brain twister, you know? And-
Yeah.
so wait, when you're talking about removing yourself from the creative process and still being in love with it.
Oh, I'm still in the creative process. That's the fun stuff.
So wait, what
Just,
do you mean? Like,
the-
rephrase that for me.
Being there every day, you know?
Okay.
Because, I mean, that when we first opened Wrench, all I wanted to do was work. So it just made sense to build it around myself and a small team because there were no goals of doing anything else.
Right.
But there's also no escape plan. You know, I mean, I still go home to Wrench.
Right.
Like, that is, you know, I get to go work a night on the sushi bar over there. That's like my homecoming.
I
But,
also think there's this falsity to this idea of work-life balance where it's just like, are you doing the thing, like, or your life's work, where like this is what you want to
This
do.
is it's your calling, it's your dharma. Like it's absolutely the thing that we are fulfilled by. And there are elements of it that burn us out. Like when we opened Costa Mesa, I was up there I think every day straight for 3 months. And it, you know, for at least 12 hours a day and did not stop. And you get to the point where like when you're crying to and from work every day, you realize that maybe you're starting to burn out. But it's also just this feeling of like, okay, let's get in here and then build this thing. And then when you step back from that, you see this beautiful thing you've created. So it's
Yeah.
like even that grind isn't necessarily bad as long as there's a path
I
forward.
mean, it's not like we're stockbrokers.
Right.
Yeah.
Costa
You know.
Mesa, is that your second plot?
Okay, so
Third.
that's our third. The
How
Plot
long ago was
Express,
that?
was beginning of January when we
Of
opened
this
that.
year?
Yeah.
What month is it now? June?
It's June, so
6
we've been
months
open
ago.
6 months. Yeah.
Why? What was the emotion that you were feeling that was making you cry to and from work?
Exhaustion, I think. It just probably a little homesickness. We love Oceanside so much, and I don't think I realized how much I really loved being here every day. Being at this
How far is
plot.
Costa Mesa? I'm not
It's
really
about 45
familiar.
minutes.
Okay.
Yeah,
So were
and
you
it-
staying in a hotel up that way? Or?
We did for a couple of weeks.
Okay.
And then after that, we started commuting. And we were at a point where we were not completely understaffed, but we didn't have a lot of extra people on the team to go around. So I just took on the role of building the front of the house team from scratch up there. And so we already had Chef Travis, who's one of our head chefs for the plot group. He went up there and he was up, you know, and so Davin was up there, but you weren't glued to it. Or
Yeah, I could go get lunch.
Yeah,
And that's the type of glued to it that she, you know, like standing in there, moving around, not eating,
Right.
Not eating is a big part of it.
Right.
Yeah,
you know?
that's quick burnout.
And we love Costa Mesa. It's the
Yeah.
coolest neighborhood. It's cool to
it's
go
sick.
up there and
Yeah.
hang out, you know. But I think it's missing this. But when there's multiples and you're kind of trapped at one of them, can't.
Yeah, it's like that. I think, were you, hindsight being 2020, do you think you're maybe more aggressive than you would have liked to be with the scaling of it?
I don't know, because I truly believe that everything happens the way it's meant to.
Right.
And so the kind of the tearing down and building back up of us as business people of the group, like I believe that it's happening the way it's meant to,
Right.
but it was also a lot, and I don't know how much we'll probably never know how much we sacrificed or compromised by doing it in the fashion that we did. We basically had this opportunity at Carlsbad for an express location.
Right.
About the same time, had an offer to do something cool up in Costa Mesa.
Yeah.
We looked at them and we said, let's have the conversations for both, and one of them will fall off.
Yeah.
And we kind of kept just pushing them along, and all of a sudden we were signing leases on both.
Okay.
And it was, David and I kind of have this tendency to be like, is it a fuck yeah? Okay, let's do it.
Yeah.
And
If it's
then
not a
figure
fuck
it
yeah,
out.
it's a hell no.
And the timing didn't match up, so how it fell in reality was a little out of our control.
Yeah.
But I mean, answer your question. Like, I mean, yes, we'd probably do it the same all over again because that's who we are. But you're right. You're totally right. Like, it was ambitious.
Right.
You
But
know,
at the
and
same,
it still is.
But it's
you know?
it's crazy. Like, it's like it's almost like when you choose to not care about scale and you say, I'm just going to focus on doing this one thing amazing. It's like right after you commit to that, it's like the opportunities start coming because
Yeah.
it's like you've created something special. And it's like, I think people, they try to go out and say, I'm going to go build something and scale it. And they put all their energy out into the universe trying to make shit happen. But the best way to make shit happen is by putting all of your energy into doing that one thing.
Yeah.
And then it's just like, it grows from the inside out,
Well,
not
it's
from
like-
the outside
Really?
in.
It's like if
Yeah.
you're bummed about being single and you want to attract a mate, what's the best thing you can do to get one? Work on yourself.
Right,
You know?
exactly.
Like, same, you know.
No, I think, and it's just been it's kind of been an awesome journey because there's been a lot of falling down and picking back up again. And I think the thing that like we have realized about plot most recently, and I kind of started to touch on this earlier, is just that like it needs to be gritty and it needs to be culinary focused, and it doesn't need to be about efficiencies. I mean, it does, like, of course, like that needs to be, but that part's the easy part. What it really needs to hold is the same soul that Wrench and Rodent still has. And so figuring out how to be a group that grows at a pace that we're comfortable with, but also maintains the very core, that fuck yeah, or that punk rock spirit, really. I mean, he says that punks don't call themselves punk, but there's something to me incredibly punk rock about just saying, like, this is truly what we believe in, and we want to do it the best we possibly can every single day. And, like, I think it's exciting. We want to just continue to create. And so we've kind of circled back to that original energy that we started Wrench and Rodent with him just creating. And the stuff that he's coming up with for the plot is blowing my mind.
Yeah.
Like, it's so freaking exciting.
It sounds weird to say it and hear it said, but like, you know, what plot has been up against with some of its challenges, like back in the days, 2004, in the fish joint days, those challenges were there, but it was just with fish and not vegetables. You know, whenever you're bringing, I mean, now, oh no, that would never be sushi. Californians eat sushi 3 times a week, you know, and
Right.
a lot still do.
Probably too
You know?
much.
Yeah, I mean, it's we prioritize
plants.
sushi meals, you know. You know, it's easy to say, oh yeah, well, fish is easy and veggies are hard, but no, it's the timing thing. And what I like is, you know, I don't. You can make money following trends, you know, but it's not about that. It's, you know, what's going to be the next trend, and, you know, where is this? And I really believe that with some of the stuff that the plot and restaurants like it are doing, and it's not to turn the world vegan. It's just to, like you said, bring that balance. You know, we're kind of plant light in our diets, and,
Right.
I mean, you can get a lot of issues out of the way with just dietary, you know, like planetary, human, like animal, you know, like check all those boxes, and it's just something that kind of needs to catch. It needs to be made sexy, you know, like we need to make it irresistible so that it'll catch on. And people got to also see that, like, okay, you know, you can't eat plants without, you know, it's not gonna It's not going to turn you into a vegan if you don't want to. You're
Right.
not going to instantly be enrolled in yoga classes. You won't be driving a Prius.
Right. I think there's a lot of hope because the thing that you're trying to do, the thing we're trying to do is fix the broken food system, right? That is a hard project, but there's tons of available resource today, human equity, human power, human bandwidth. As technology continues to scale and grow, a lot of the things, the meticulous things, we can automate a lot of that stuff. And I think there's so much opportunity for purpose in food and beverage where everybody seemed to get away from farming and feeding each other as like, that's not real. I think the pendulum is about to swing back where like so many people are going to be out of work, creative work, copywriting, data entry. Like think about all the things AI is going to replace real soon. Where are these people going to go? Put all that human energy, bandwidth, potential into solving our biggest problem. The food system, and there's a bunch of bandwidth about to come our way.
Yeah,
and you can't automate feeding. Like you can, but it's not just like the act of getting this to here, this food to this place. It's the human relationships behind it. The restaurateur to farmer. The executive chef to sous chef, the experience of going to a physical place, being shoulder to shoulder with other community members, and that act of service that you can't replace with automation.
It's so healing too. I think the community aspect of it, the people being united around food, it's something that we all have in common. So it's very comforting.
Right. It's
also healing for the team. It's like, I think one of my favorite things on the planet is to see our chefs go out before and in the middle of service and just go out to the garden and harvest some of the produce that they're going to be using while they cook. Like that is a beautiful, not just because it's idyllic and cute, it's just this idea that they are picking the food that they will be serving. And we know that that food is grown in healthy soil. It's going to taste better. It's going to have more nutrients. But there's also just that moment that they get to take away from a kitchen with all of the bustling and all of the grind and go out and have a moment in nature. And that is so important. Like there's so much about nature that can teach us. One of our favorite sayings is that there's no waste in nature. Waste is kind of a human construct. So there's really no such thing as waste. There's just kind of squandered opportunities for creativity. And so just bringing our teams back to nature, like it sounds lofty and kind of hippy-dippy, but it's also kind of freaking rad.
That's what I do to go chill out.
Yeah, we all do. We go hide in the garden.
What's more grounding than putting your hands on the ground?
Yeah.
You're like,
it's where we came from. Like we started as hunter-gatherers and, like going into nature, trying to find and forage food. That evolved into arguably the beginning of the end, agriculture, right? And I think when we go back to our roots, what it means to be human, to connect with the earth, to literally be in sync, in tune with Mother Nature to survive. Like when you get closer to that, like it's weird how that's a healing thing. We've been talking a lot about chaos. And I think that you've identified that what makes you special is the chaos, Davin's creativity, but like, you can't scale something without the balance of order, right? So how are you guys finding that order? And I guess, are you leaning on systems, processes, procedures, protocols, technology, things like that?
All of them. Yeah. And that's, we love systems. We love that kind of, I love spreadsheets with all my heart.
Yeah.
But I think that what happened is when we had the plot in mind, I came right with the business school mentality. Everything was systems. Everything was processes. We had Chris Logan, who we worked with, who's very scale oriented. And so everything was about how to create something that's so orderly and so systematized. And we went too far in that direction. So we still have a very strong base of those systems. We use pretty much all the fun technology that we can come up with. We use a lot of Excel spreadsheets too. We do all the things that we're supposed to do, but we also are just using those as our foundation and not letting them define us as a group anymore, if that makes sense.
Can you get into the details? Like, can you share like your tech stack, your approach to systems? So like what's working for you? Like what have you been excited about? I know you guys are using Toast, right?
Yeah, we're using Toast and all the integrated systems with Toast. We use OpenTable. We've loved OpenTable since day one. I was just reading an article that kind of like laid out what kind of businesses use what kind of reservation systems, which I thought was kind of funny. But we've been with OpenTable forever. We use Toast. We use their catering software, which is really helpful. So
what
we've been using
that.
I can't remember what it's called. It's just whatever they kind of put on as an add-on. How they have all of their integrated features. And so we were part of like their testing period. I just got excited when I saw it. And so we've been using that for a couple of our restaurants, we've been building our catering and events. As far as recipe costing and back of the house systems, we had looked at a couple different programs and even started in on a couple of them, but have pretty much gone back to clipboards and spreadsheets and kind of doing it ourselves.
So what was the resistance there? This is like a lot of, there tends to be a lot of resistance. By this stuff, we're talking about recipe costing, like you said, budgeting, purchasing, inventory,
nutrition labeling,
labor
all of the
management,
things,
that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and so I mean, we use different systems here and there. We use Homebase for our scheduling, just because it's the one that we all seem to be comfortable with. But when it comes to things like Plate IQ, as an example, and it was great. We started to work with that. We used what was the one Toast was using?
Extra Chef.
Extra Chef, yeah. We decided not to use Extra Chef after using it for a little while.
Yeah.
But then we were looking at Plate IQ, and it was awesome, but it also comes down to cost sometimes. And we were just about to sign up for it, and we were working with somebody else who was kind of mentoring us on some different business strategy stuff. And it kind of comes down to, like, we don't need to sign up for a ton of software that has a lot of capacity that's cool, but we don't really need it yet.
Right.
If we can do it ourselves still.
What are the things you think you need the most right now, in terms of like prioritizing what you need in what order?
I mean, right now it's more marketing. We have really tight systems. I mean, our recipes and our costing is all into just an integrated spreadsheet that I geeked out on and tied together so that we can adjust the food costs and see everything kind of move through the system. Like, there's not a lot that we feel like we can't just do in Excel if we know how to build out the spreadsheets. But I think mostly what we need to be focusing on is marketing and building volume for the plot.
Okay.
And that's really and again, that came from our naivety and our easy kind of ramp up that happened at Wrench and Rodent. And I don't say easy like building the restaurant was easy. It was just that volume piece was it came very naturally and organically for us.
It was also a smaller space, so less overhead.
Exactly.
So and it grew incrementally too.
Right.
So it was almost like build as you go kind of.
Yeah, blow out this wall.
Yeah.
Whereas now you have, this is what, 300. How many seats in this location?
This is only 170.
130 square feet? Is that what it was?
4,400 square feet.
Okay.
A lot of kitchen. And Wrench, again, we kind of had one part of it, and then we took over another part, and we took over another part until we took the lease on the whole building. So we were able to scale it as we were ready.
Yeah. You took on the liability before you had the cash flow.
Exactly.
Basically. So you have to ramp up the cash to kind of meet the liability, i.e. the physical assets.
Exactly. And so, and again, I don't want to say anything negative about any of those systems out there. At a point, we probably will use them and integrate with them. But I think there's a lot of companies trying to make money off of restaurants by instilling a little bit of fear in them. Like, you don't have this system, you suck, or you're naive, or you need this, we'll make
70% of all purchases are emotionally based.
Yeah.
And you don't think all marketers know that?
Yeah.
And you don't think they're all trying to exploit the biggest fears that restaurant owners have? Not enough money, not enough work-life balance. Not like, you should be working from a beach somewhere. No, go fuck you if you want to work from the beach. Like, we don't want people like that in our industry. But like,
I think you just solved our marketing problem.
Yeah.
I'm saving that.
It's
so true.
Yeah.
And something like going back to like old school, because like when I started in restaurants, like none of this existed, and trust me, I'm stoked on all of it. And even the stuff that we don't use, we're happy to know it's there.
Right.
But Wrench, Wrench, to be able to do what we're doing, accessibility is another part of our mission that we haven't gone too in depth on. But even Wrench, we want it to be accessible. And the price of an omakase has kind of gone from $30 to $90.
Right.
And that's with us holding on to less of it in between with all just everything that's gone on crazy. So keeping the food costs spot on at Wrench and a certain amount of volume is key. That's part of the formula. So our food costs started getting out of line, and Lauren was really struggling with this. But it was also at a time when like everything was changing, so we had a bunch of moving targets. We had some expensive
CPA
subscription
group, something was going on. Yeah,
we weren't able to get our P&Ls until 2, sometimes 3 months down the road.
Wow.
So I don't need to be told that I lost a ton of money 3 months after the fact. You pretty much learn that fast. So we wanted, the real time, you want to be able to have time to react. You can't always be preemptive, but the fastest way to get anything is with the supercomputer that we were born with. So we stripped everything away at Wrench. We bought a pencil and a piece of paper. And I taught Lauren how to do it old school and add up his costs, take the sales. And the exercise of doing that, and it wasn't that like it's better for one of my most valuable chefs to spend that much time at a desk crunching numbers the old way. It's the fact that there's something about that hand-brain connection, because after a few short months of it, all of that equation, those numbers now exist in his head. So, he might not be able to get it down to half a penny, but he can kind of tell you which is something, it was a gift that another chef did for me years ago. What happened is I stepped away and I was overseeing more restaurants, and I couldn't be as myopic on Wrench as I wanted to be. Plus, the person whose feet are in the ground at that spot are the best people for that job. Their head is in the walk-in. Like, I can try, and I'm also the worst. Being a chef, I'm the kid in the candy store, so I'm gonna buy that caviar.
He's bad.
I'm gonna, I am hands down the worst. Is the exercise and the training.
How much does fish semen cost?
Sorry,
how much does fish semen cost?
Fish semen?
Yeah.
Dude, it's free. If you catch the fish in the right time of year, it's in the gut sack.
Yeah.
Most people just throw it away. And at a time when foie was legal, illegal, and I'm going to stay out of my opinion on any of that anyway, since we're sitting in a vegan restaurant, but it has a very liver-like quality about it. So rather than taking, you have something that's there that scratches an itch. It's not exactly the same, but there's that creamy liver kind of taste.
I'll take your word for it.
And you should really eat it.
Right now it's in season. It's totally in season. But of course you get that with the boys, and you get eggs with the girls. Yeah. And
you did egg sack sausage, I think, at one point.
It's so weird how we're so willing to eat eggs.
Yeah,
but like the other seed of life is like
No, he did a fish sperm chowder.
I think it's just the fact that it has a tail that scares people. It must be it.
Weird. No, I just remember Sam, the cooking guy, made a comment on one of our Instagram posts, and he's like, "You guys don't have to serve everything," or something along those lines, because it was I think it was the egg sack sausage and the Gary or something. But that's the coolest freaking thing ever. You get a whole fish.
So much fun with the branding with that too.
Exactly. He was doing Kentucky Fried Tuna heads.
Yeah.
And you were using cheek, you were using everything that
I had this big tough guy and a little Japanese grandma, and there was only one left, and the two of them were about to get in a fist fight over the last tuna head. And I'm just looking at this, and it's such a broad demographic. I'm like, dude, I love both of you. You can both come back. I will get you two each and give them to you. You just made me so happy with awesome. That, and I guess in a way that's how marketing trickles down. A tuna head might be gross. A Kentucky Fried Tuna head, I can relate with that. I'll try it.
Well, and just the idea that in different cultures, it's totally normal to eat all of those things. And then you always liken it to a hot dog. In the U.S., it's totally normal to eat a hot dog.
Right.
But it has what I would consider to be some of the gnarliest parts in there.
Lips and assholes.
Yeah, exactly.
Probably all the shit I play with put in one casing.
Yeah, exactly. So, all of this just comes back to storytelling. We talk about that a lot. It's just everything we believe in. Not to divert from the exciting conversation about numbers. I feel what we were talking about that is super simple, though. It's just coming back to the basics.
Well, there's everything. There's a balance. There's a balance between I'm just going to throw money at apps and services and hope that solves all my problems, but really at the end of the day you also have to use all those apps and services.
Exactly.
And there's a lot of overlap between you go with one service and you're getting two solutions for one problem. And it's like the app trap where you have 15 different services that you're paying a monthly fee for, and you don't end up using half of them because it's not solving your problem. It's just giving you a process that you have to use in order to solve the problem.
And in a way, kind of punting it. And I feel that's what I was doing a lot. I was overwhelmed by a lot of it. I think wrench accounting always terrified me, even with an MBA, because there were just so many small vendors. And it was so many little things that were written without even a company name on them. And, all these different little invoices and trying to keep track of it. So I was always trying to find a unified theory of everything for it. And now it's Lauren's doing the costing by hand. I'm just using QuickBooks. We're not even using a bookkeeper anymore. I just do it. And it's becoming intimately involved with your business's finances is incredibly important to really, really and maybe not forever, but like sometimes it's really important to kind of lean back in. And
to strip away so you get close to it again.
Exactly.
And start from scratch, right?
And we really had to do that because I was the worst. It's like, ooh, shiny new software. Let's try this one and this one and this one. And all of a sudden I'm just so overwhelmed trying to integrate software and understand it that we were pedaling backward. And the simplicity of actually understanding what's behind the spreadsheets, what's behind the software, and just like the very basic calculations that are running a business, I think everybody needs to know that part. It's super important.
Marketing is the last thing I want to talk before we wrap it up, because you said that you decided to shift and put your energy and efforts into just creating awareness. So what has that approach been?
That's, really building community, building tribe, telling the story of who we are, what we believe,
how do you go about doing
our why.
We're just getting started, honestly. Yeah. How have we
hiring
started with that?
By any chance?
Getting out to events and meeting people. It's always I love getting, especially here because it's a closed kitchen. But when you get the chefs out there and they interact with the end guest that they may not see because people don't feel comfortable walking in the kitchen,
right?
And that that inner person, like they get to see how special it is. What they're doing, but also just whatever it is, like especially charity stuff, like just showing people in the community that like we're here, we care about you. We're restaurant owners, we don't have a lot, but what we do have, like, it's not ours, it's ours, like and that's a lot of that's how Oceanside has grown over the years, because everybody had each other's backs and we took care of each other here. And as we go into new communities, trying to a lot's changed since those early days, but trying to stay true to that.
I think exactly. I think all of that.
Instagram's still a big part. Getting good press, hanging out with you.
Exactly.
I know that you're working with a publicist because they reached out to me, and I was like, of course I know Dean.
And I think a huge part of because what I'm doing right now is going through and looking at all the steps of marketing, and we're actually working with somebody who was drawn to our brand because of our belief system, who has a huge background in really big companies marketing, and so he's helping us build a strategy. And one of the things that I thought was the most interesting, I love this stuff because it's like, here's this guy with all of this marketing background and all of this professional experience. And he's put it, and I'm like, what is he going to tell us? We have to spend TV ads and we have to do this and that and this. And what he sits me down to tell me is that we just need to do more of what we're doing and track it a little bit better. And a lot of that is getting out into the community so there are those events, doing the storytelling, bringing people in, promotional, like branded partnerships, and like, what would you call them? Kind of co-branding with different companies that are aligned. Collaborations.
When that co-branding, are you talking about content creation?
Yes, and a lot of just finding other companies that are aligned and creating partnerships with them.
What is that? So what does that process of creating a partnership look like?
I think, for one, collaborations are really good at, So one thing we do is we look for companies that are doing things that we believe in, and say it's a coffee company like Steady State down here or Anomaly Coffee up north, and just have them be our coffee provider. And then we were doing pop-ups with them and different opportunities to really amplify our shared vision and mission.
Slingshotting off of each other's.
Exactly, because all of a sudden we have two markets that we're, that we can broaden awareness. Working with PR has been phenomenal. We've worked with Baybird for a really long time, and she's the one who reached out to you. I love Peyton, and one of the most important parts about that is that we're aligned in what we believe in. We were on a board of directors together for a nonprofit, and that's how I met her and grew to admire her. So I think even when you're doing something like hiring a publicist, it's about finding the people that are your people.
Right.
People you believe in, but also people that believe in you.
Yeah.
Right.
Because you can't sell something you don't believe in.
Yeah. Do you find it difficult to do more of what you've already been doing on top of trying to run and scale a restaurant?
From time to time, yes. I think there was a week or two ago, where we were just so maxed. We were doing, because we're also building catering, which catering is so rad because you get to go out, you sell your product, and you also get the benefit of all of the people who show up to the event learning about your brand. So that's something we're really building. My sister's just been selling the heck out of it.
Right?
Yeah.
Went back to.
But we had a wedding here that we were doing. We had another catering. We had like 2 events. It was all in one weekend, and we were like, Okay, maybe
Now
we
just,
gotta.
now just
Two
get on
farm-
Instagram real quick. and
Two
do
farm
a story.
dinners and a wedding
Talk about how
So-
excited you are.
Yeah,
You're just,
exactly.
I'm exhausted and I'm on the edge of crying.
So to better, like,
Yeah.
to really answer your question, I do think that there are times when, I mean, that way of thinking is in us. It's what we like to do. It's some of our favorite stuff to do.
Right.
I think there are times where you might not get around to it as much as you would like to.
Right.
And, you kind of get distracted over here and it's like, oh, shit, I got to go back and, but like, thankfully there's always causes, people, to where, you don't forget for too long.
Right. I think there's also a reality too. Not everybody's meant to do that sort of thing. Like being creative with digital media is like almost like the modern age of like scrapbooking, and not everybody's good at scrapbooking. Like I tried to create a scrapbook once for an ex-girlfriend, and we're no longer together.
Okay,
You know what I
that's
mean?
cute.
Like it didn't
Sorry.
come out good. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? Like so, it's like, and I think there's a certain skill set that's associated with like social, like getting in there and like being creative and like the visual, the artistic side of creating a poster or something like that. So I think the expectation that everybody should be doing that is also sometimes unrealistic.
Well, one thing that I did realize, though, we had somebody doing our social media for a long time, and she incredibly talented. But what we started to do was look like a brand that was a lot bigger than our own. And
Yeah.
I think that's kind of almost counterproductive. Like when people start to see you as corporate because you are putting forth such a very professional and polished aesthetic, that's awesome. You look sexy, but maybe they don't have that same brand loyalty to you that they would if they knew you're just like, a local couple just trying
Right.
to pull shit off.
Or go ahead.
Losing your authenticity is never, that's the worst possible thing, but a very close thing is looking like you've lost your authenticity when
Right.
you really haven't. You know?
Or like being so good at telling the story, creating that facade, the image, the brand, being so good at marketing, and then you finally drive people to your business,
And it
they
doesn't
get
match
there and
it.
they're like, wait,
Yeah.
what?
Exactly.
But I think you can survive by being really good at marketing today and just going all in on that. And
Yeah.
then I don't know.
I think it's
Like I'm kind of negative when it comes to marketing. I'm not gonna lie. It's like I like to say it's the bane of human existence. It's like a necessary thing, but it's like
It is. I mean, but to me, it's just amplifying a vision that we believe in.
Right.
Like getting more people into our restaurant means more people are voting with their dollar for a
Yeah.
localized food system, for food that's going to heal their bodies, for food that's not extractive. To me, that is absolutely like what's the right word? Like a valid path or a respectful path. So I don't think we have to look at marketing as bad, but I've been working through that for a while now because it is something where I'm like, it's like when my dad told me to go network and I'm like, gross. I don't want to go network, Dad. What are you talking about? He used to coach me in business. And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God, I met this person and I'm so inspired by them and blah, blah, blah. And my dad's like, oh, so you were networking. And I'm like, no, I was building community, that's
I made a
totally
friend.
different. I made a friend, who shares my values and we can learn and grow with each other, and he's like networking. But I think that like just that little shift, we don't have to make everything ugly. Like we
Right.
can look at all these things and just say, no, we're just building an awareness about something that is important to us and might become important to them. And in the meantime, they can have a really badass meal.
Yeah.
Like that's cool.
Yeah.
So doesn't feel quite as creepy.
This has been a lot of fun, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, really. Anything we haven't discussed that you want to get out now before we wrap up?
I don't think so. I feel like we meandered around a lot of really awesome topics that we're stoked on, and we're just we're excited to be part of this awesome movement of people who give a shit about food. And I said shit way too many times on this, and if my mom listens to it, I apologize.
Restaurant owners curse. That's what we
So good catching up with you.
Yeah, it's cool to be here 4 years ago, and 4 more years. I'd love to come back when to see the evolution beyond what you've already done to this point. It's been really cool, and I love follow-up interviews because it lets me really go deep and to grow, to network,
All right.
to make better relationships.
Exactly.
Yes.
It's so much better than the word network.
So a couple questions before we say goodbye. So the mission statement is to change the world through inspiring, empowering, and transforming the restaurant industry. So how have the two of you personally transformed? How are you better today than you were when you got started?
Us personally, I was thinking of mission statements, and ours for the plies to make plant-based food irresistible and give back more than we take. And us personally, I feel like that's kind of what we're trying to do, is just give back more than we take. And one thing we learned during COVID was that when we're not giving, we're less of ourselves. We're not happy. We don't feel fulfilled. And so being able to realize that's a huge part of who we are, that we want to continue to give back, I think that's been a big part of our evolution, if that makes sense, personally.
So the evolution is giving more than you take.
Yeah.
Do you want to add anything to that, David?
I think for me is evolving over the last 4 years is just, we got a lot, because I love learning. I want to be a lifetime student, you know, like I think a lot of people in culinary careers, we all look back fondly, even though it might not have been the best being a young, underpaid line cook or whatever. Like, you got so much information coming at you, you know? And in the past years, there's so much life experience, some of it under our control, some of it not. Scary times, but just having had all that to process, you know, you can't not evolve. And it's been humbling, you know. Like, I never thought I had a huge ego before, but I promise you I got even less of one after all of that.
Right.
But that's good, you know, because that shit just gets in the way.
Right.
But,
so less ego has been your personal evolution.
And just a master class, you know, like being able to, you know, adapt to challenging times.
Right.
And also try to do the best I can to guide the teams through scary times.
Yeah.
You know, like if there's strong, you know, you're in a scary time and there's someone saying, no, just come here. I mean, I can't promise you everything's going to be okay, but we're at least going to try to have some fun while this is going on.
Yeah.
Like, hopefully it made their lives better through some of the scarier stuff. But
Yeah.
just being on the other side of a lot of it, and a lot of different things, expansion, COVID, you know, like, you know, kids going from, you know, little kids to young adults and all of that. Yeah, sushi chefs, you know, like, just that. Because, like, in a lot of those situations you give, but it's the same thing as Jessica says, like, you think you're giving, but really you're the one getting.
Right.
Because all that experience has just, you know, it's made me more patient. It's definitely given me faith in the team because we're still here, you know.
Right.
Trust, you know. I mean, it forged the teams and it forged us as individuals.
I love that. Awesome stuff. So this is the last question. It's a doozy. And I think the last time I actually asked Davin these questions. So
I love your last question.
Yeah. So I'm going to make you field this one. And it's a doozy. So get ready for it. If you got the news, you'd be leaving this world tomorrow. All the memories of you, your work, and your restaurants would be lost with your departure, with the exception of 3 pieces of wisdom you could leave behind for the good of humanity and your legacy. What would those 3 pieces of wisdom be?
Oh my God, this is hard. Okay. I hope I don't sound like too preachy, but it's honestly just like we can grow our own food and it tastes better and it makes us strong. Like there's no such thing as waste.
2.
And I think the most important things we learned from each other.
3. This has been a lot of fun. Thank you guys so much. So I'm going to have you guys share your contact information, and then I want you to call somebody out, somebody you guys respect and admire. But if we enjoyed today's episode and we want to follow up, maybe follow you online, maybe come work for you, what's the best way to connect?
Instagram is great. We're super active at The Plot Restaurant or at Wrench and Rodent.
Cool. And do you have personal handles you want out there?
At Davin Waite.
And at JM Waite.
Cool. And who do you respect and admire in the industry right now? Who's doing it right? Who's leading others? Who's making money while they do it and making a change in their community? Who do you think I should get on the show?
Do you have anybody you want to call out right now?
Oh, God.
I know.
I've got a lot of people I want to call out.
I feel like, okay, so the person that I am most inspired by, she doesn't have a monster platform. Her name is Christina Ng. She is the foundation cultivator of Very Good Food Foundation, which is a nonprofit I work with. But she is, in the San Diego community, one of the most deeply connected and supportive and bridge-building humans that I know.
And she's an absolute legend.
She's a legend as a chef and as an educator.
Christina Ing, ING?
Yes, NG.
NG, thank you.
Yeah. And I watch the way she lives our shared vision every single day at every event she can make it to, and teaching students and empowering elders and like everything across the board. She's phenomenal.
What's the name of her program?
She is the foundation cultivator at Berry Good Food Foundation.
Like BERRY? Berry?
Yeah, Berry.
Got it. Very Good Food Cultivation.
Very Good Food Foundation.
Food Foundation.
And she's the foundation cultivator.
Foundation Cultivation.
Yeah.
That's all cool stuff going on there.
She's phenomenal. Or Very Good Food is fine. You can just say Very Good Food.
Cool. Did you want to add anybody to that list? I mean, it's putting you guys on the spot, I realize it. But this is really the purpose of this question is I don't want to be the one to decide who to make an example of because it's not my place. I feel like success recognizes success. Good people doing good things recognize good people doing good things. And I'm trying to find the people who are, deserve to be made an example of, who aren't looking to be made an example of, but that's who we should try to emulate, those types of people. So,
if you can track them down, Nick Sakagami.
Ooh, yeah, that's a good one too.
Nick's, how the heck do you spell that last name?
Sakagami, right?
Yeah.
Something like I think
Sakagami.
close.
Got it. I'll be able to figure it out. Right now.
Yeah.
Nick's a legend, and he's one of. He might still be the only certified fishmeister, and basically a fish sommelier.
Okay.
So
Outside of Japan,
outside
right?
of Japan.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
And I think they're numbered. The certification is numbered. Class is only taught in Japan, but he's working with a farm called Umitron.
Okay.
And they're delivering the first organic hamachi to the United States. And these, it's insane, the quality. Because, with, like we're talking about, what's going on with the ocean. People, there's always, the farmed fish or the wild fish. And, the honest truth is we need both. But we need it both to be responsible and, but the leaps and bounds that this farm working with Nick has made in making something that we can feel better about supporting, it's mind blowing. I think you'll trip out on some of the stuff,
Yeah.
but
Christina, Nick, look out. I'm coming after you. I love each other show. And this is where I say thank you guys so much for taking the time to share your stories, your knowledge, your perspective, your values. There is no questioning. You are unstoppable.
Thanks.
Cheers.